Hello divas, dudes, and dolls, I'm Caricature, and welcome back to my varied, voracious, and venerable little review show, Very Slay, where we go over each and every main stage runway look on RuPaul's Drag Race UK Series 6. I have to say, y'all, if you've been watching every season of Drag Race, global all-stars aside, especially right now in the international pantheon, we're about to start Thailand, which I'm sure is going to be a great season. I mean, that remains to be seen, it hasn't started yet, but we are at a time where we have Philippines Season 3, one of the best seasons of Drag Race ever, period. We have Drag Race España, which is a returned form of two of the best seasons of international Drag Race, period. And then we have UK 6, which I think has the makings of being another really solid entry in the Drag Race pantheon. It's a great cast. I really love, like, all of these queens already. It's a great group dynamic, and the styles of drag are really interesting. I think it's something to note that a lot of the queens have someone that's almost like a pair for them, or like a foil in some way. Like, we have two Filipino girls, we have two girls from St. Lucia, there's multiple people for the Manchester scene, there's multiple people who are like queens of a certain age, who are more that variety show cabaret era. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how that's gonna play out, if that's gonna be a way for them to set up storylines or rivalries, or pair them up for lip syncs. Who knows? We'll just have to see what production has in store for us this season. But I think there's going to be a lot of really fun looks this season, and I think there's going to be some very fun challenges. Now today, before we get into each and every one of these runway looks, this Queen of Your Hometown runway theme, which is a Drag Race UK staple and classic from the earlier seasons, we are going to do this a little differently. For those who've been watching Very Slay for a while, you know that I always reviewed the entrance looks as well for that first episode, but frankly, there's so much drag TV between all of the ones going on right now. I'm about to pick up a fifth covering Dragula. I about put myself 6 feet under doing 4 at a time, and that was before I had a boyfriend, and before I was only home 3 days a week, and before I was in the middle of moving. It's going to be kind of helter-skelter, and I'm going to have to really limit and scale back the amount of content I'm putting in these videos for that reason. That being said, if you want my full opinion on the entrance looks, you can read those opinions in prose format over on my Patreon by joining as a free member. If you want exclusive access to behind the scenes things, inside sneak peeks at content that's coming down the pipeline, if you're a nerdy girly, we've got some fun Pokemon stuff that's going to be coming to the channel pretty soon. It's gonna be a little bit different, but still Drag Race and drag related. And some other projects that I'm going to hopefully be getting started and off the ground in the new year once the move is done and settled. Stay tuned for all of that. Get excited. Join the Patreon at a paid membership to see all of that and all the art and all of the little bonus things that I've got coming. I've got some end of year videos I'm gonna be working on pretty soon that will be Patreon exclusive, that is likely going to include a ranking of my favorite, however many I decide, entrance looks across every season of Drag Race that aired this year. Be sure to check out the link in the description below for all of that stuff. So like I said, this week's runway was a very classic staple Queen of Your Hometown runway, where the queens simply just had to do a look that was in reference to their hometown in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to be critiquing these looks predominantly off of just objective design and construction features and aesthetic tastes. Now, when we get into these looks, if I think that something met the brief, showcased the theme, but wasn't incredible, we give it an okay. If I absolutely adored it, we give it a slay. And if I think there's something really wrong with it that is just like not doing it, we give it a nay. That's all in efforts to find my weekly slay of the day, my favorite look of the episode's theme, which will go head-to-head against our current ranked slate of the season, Marmalade for her promo look, and whichever look holds that top spot once we've crowned a winner, that look's going to get a lovely little illustration, which once again, you can get sneak peeks of that over on the Patreon, and depending on how things go with art, and if I'm feeling artsy, I might just start drawing whatever looks, and people on the Patreon can vote between ones I'm interested in drawing at the time. I'm just saying, I want to check it out. If you watch UK versus the World, there's gonna be some Marina Summer stuff coming soon, and it's gonna be very gorgeous and very lovely. It's time we get into these looks. So let's switch scenes and start talking about all of these little divas from across the pond. All right, first up on this runway, we have Chanel O'Connor representing the Scottish Highlands and Islands. And I think her having her family tartan as this skirt that's a reference to Scottish kilts is so cool. I love this hair. I actually find this look quite sporty in a fun way, and I like the sweater. I really like the sweater element of this. I think it is a cute Very authentic Scottish look. I could see her hitting a golf course, but like in a very cunty way. I was a fan of this. I actually really like too the cut of the skirt being asymmetrical, and I love that she's got like the knitted socks that kind of goes with the sweater. Back detailing on the sweater too. The buttons that go right down the spine. Love. This for me is a slay. Next up, the Queen of St. Lucia, we have Kiki Snatch. I love that she did a take on a national dress from St. Lucia. I think the dress itself, great. But the plaid bit over the top of it, I think my biggest issue with it is she's got these cutouts to like allow for breast placement, but with where it's at, it's a little high, so it kind of cuts her upper torso off in a weird way, and it makes her look a little lengthy through the midsection, but really short through like here. So it's a little strange on the eye. I love the colors on her though. The ruffle's great. I like the hairstyle, but not necessarily the hair color. And I like the skirt from behind and like the colors through there. I don't know, there's just something about it that's missing a bit for me. I'm gonna give it an okay. Next up, we have Lil representing Manchester. And I get that she's doing like a raincoat for this first look. And it's fine. I'm not crazy about it. I don't really like this dress she's got underneath, and I like the sort of drippy melted smiley face as it goes down. That's quite campy, quite silly. I like the colorful shoes and the pink tights to go with the pink hair she's got under the wig reveal. I think the final look actually works pretty well, but the hair is so small. I wish it had just been like a little bigger. Other than that, this came around for me, but I still was not a huge fan of it, so this is also just going to be an okay. Next up, we have Charavan Thrax, who's giving us this little Lancashire witch moment. I thought this was cute. It's pretty simple as well. It's not a huge silhouette. I like the hat. I love the detailing on it though, that it's like the beading and the little feathers to echo like the flames licking the body as it's burned at the stake. I think that's quite fun. I think the little leg girder pieces were unnecessary, but with the broom, it does kind of make sense. It has that sort of broom shape and it's stylable for me. And the makeup, I love the makeup. I love the makeup so much. I love how it like goes all the way across the brow. Very, very fun. And she, for me, is like one to watch. I'm sure her runways are gonna be incredible this season. She's a slay, hands down. Then we have Zahira Zapanta, our Philippine diva, and you know me, I love me a Philippines girl. It's a lovely nod to the pageantry of the Philippines, how big pageantry is over there in particular with drag. I love this very traditional Filipino shoulder that she's got on this little jacket, but I don't know. I just wish the dress hit the floor. I think that's my biggest gripe. And then the only way that she kind of brought like the dual culture of being from the Philippines, but also being from the UK now, having just the flag, I wish that there would have been a design where that would have been brought in. Like, had she had like a terno, but had a Union Jack built into it in some way, I would have really liked to see the East meets West come together aesthetically in the costuming. So for me, it's good, but it's not amazing. So it's another okay. And then we have my namesake nemesis, Miss Charity, and I have to say, as a fan of Dairy Girls, I kind of loved this. If you haven't seen Dairy Girls, go see it. It's very funny. But I loved this exaggerated take on a school uniform because you've got the huge shoulders, you've got the big hair, the skirt that's double layered pleats, and it's all rhinestone and detailed really well. This to me really read as the reference but taken into a drag space, and I feel like that's something that a lot of these girls who do like pop culture referencey things don't do. They go so for the base traditional or the base reference piece that they don't like extrapolate upon it to make it into their drag aesthetic. This is one of the more successful looks on the runway this week. This immediately tells me, oh, this is an Irish girl. She's able to do that without coming out like a fucking leprechaun, you know? So I found this great. This is a slay. Next up, we have another Manchester diva. We've got Saki Yu. I adore this. This is so elegant. This yellow color on her is like just pure sunshine on her skin. This is delightful. I love that she's doing sort of the worker bee reference And she's also bringing in like the Australian stuff because that's also part of her culture. This is successful in a way that Zahira's was not, because this blends where she's from with like being from Australia with the Manchester culture. So I really can see all of it coming together in a really specific way that I enjoy a lot, where I feel like Zahira's was like, I'm in a pageantry dress with a sort of Filipino traditional structured shoulder, and then I've got the Philippines flag and the British flag, and that's really it. There's more thought into this, in my opinion. This is a slay. Next up, we have from Stockton-on-Tees, Lavoie, giving us this lovely little blue pirate moment. I thought this was another really fun look too. So I thought doing this sort of Captain Cook moment, it makes sense. But I love that there's multiple tones of blue. It's not this like really stark royal blue. It's got this kind of like brownish neutral blue mixed in with the gold. It's a really beautiful color, and the gold accent would work really well with it. It looks a little more appropriate for a pirate theme. It's not super cartoony, but the fabric choice is gorgeous. I love the drape of this coat, especially in the back. The pleats are really, really well done. This works. So in my opinion, this is a slay. Next up, we also have our other St. Lucia queen, Release the Slaves. And like I said at the beginning, I do find it interesting that you have two queens that kind of have a similar heritage or a similar background. Inevitably, they're going to be compared to each other when they do looks like this, because Release's dress is the same dress, essentially, as Kiki's. Both did different styles of it for their drag aesthetic. I think Release's works a lot more. And it ultimately comes down to the fact that it's more in this sort of Rihanna aesthetic that she has, but it also, it's more interesting, I think, as a piece. The proportions of it work in a much better way. They're more flattering on her body. I think the hairstyle is great, makeup's stunning. I think the cut of the top is a more flattering fit, and I think doing this like drapier take on the national dress, it works better than Kiki's, because Kiki's had this like, it looked almost like overalls because that front dress piece was so short with the tartan. The way that it's handled here on the skirt, where it's lined with all these different colors and then it has more movement to it, that's more successful. I really enjoyed this look a lot. I think the way it moves is really fun to watch. This is a slay. I also just think it's styled better than Kiki's. Next up, we have one of our two Welsh queens this season, Octavia, who is giving us a nod to the Welsh flag, but also the Welsh dragon. And I think this is so fun. I love this makeup. Using the yellow as that accent, so smart. She does the under eye thing that Dahlia from Dragula season 3 does, where she extends the makeup under the eye to really make the eye look really large. It's really successful for me. I love the scales on this. The way she just pumps the runway too is great. Love the tail. Love the green and Welsh flag accents. Really, really successful. This is an absolute slay. Next up, we have Dita Garbo, who's giving us a reference to a 1908 beauty pageant that was the predecessor to Miss World. Now, I think this is very fitting. I think it makes sense. I do get that sort of early 20th century pinup aesthetic. I'm not really crazy about it because the dress is so short. I think had it been a little longer, or had she done like swimwear category, that would have been a little more interesting. She looks gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but I think it is the least visually impressive look out of everything this week, so it's okay. Then we have Marmalade, who's our other Welsh queen diva, giving us another animal look, giving us this skeletal horse head moment with all of this white lace. This is so gorgeous. I adore this a lot. I think her makeup's great. You can really see the nod to like vintage fashion that she pulls from in her costume construction. I love the little Welsh flags to add some color back in there, so it's not just all white. This is very delicate for a look that's kind of creepy when you think about it. I think it's a really successful overall piece. I'm a fan. This is a slay. And that is a wrap for our first runway of the season. Now, when we look at all 12 of these queens, I think there's a few looks here that really stand out amongst the rest. I think when it comes into my favorite looks on the runway this week, it really comes down to our Welsh queens, Octavia and Marmalade, and Saki Yu, who this look has grown on me a lot from when I first watched the episode. It's so elegant, and she looks like a proper lady going off to tea, and I think it's quite fun. I think I'm gonna have to give my slay of the day to Octavia because I don't know, I wasn't expecting this kind of a look from her. and I really enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely one that stands out the most, I think, compared to everybody else, predominantly because she's the only one who went like non-traditional skin tone with this makeup, because again, she's a dragon. I enjoyed this a lot. I'm excited to see more from this diva. She's fun. And I think everybody's personality is quite fun. They gel well together. I'm excited to see the season play out, and I can't wait to see what happens in this next challenge because it's a design challenge that's in a collection capacity. So it's looks that all kind of have to go together cohesively. So we'll have another fun thing to talk about next week. So get excited. Now that we picked our slay of the day, it's time to put it up against our other Welsh queen, Marmalade, to determine which will stay on the top for another week. And as much as I loved this dragon look, I am such a sucker for this like old Hollywood aesthetic. It's another one that's gonna be tough to beat. So Marmalade's gonna hold that top spot going into week 2. Next week, we've got a lot of queens who are seamstresses, so I am particularly keen to see how that's going to play out. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all those lovely little things to find out for yourself. And until next time, be sure to go out there, stay kind, stay queer, and make sure that your day is very slay.